Shalom family, this is yet again your boy, Jonathan Hebrew Prince, and I'm coming to you yet again with another good bit of information that is very important. And I tell you, it's very important this morning that you open your ears, open your heart, and open your mind for the information that's about to be presented this day. But we have to start off correctly. First, we start off by giving all praises to the Most High, Hallel Hawaii, for this is the day that Hawaii has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it, for his love, his patience, his kindness, his strength endures to all generations. Hallel Hawaii, Hallel Hawaii, Hallel Hawaii. As I said before, family, it is very important that you open up your ears today. I'm going to get right into this thing because I don't want to hold you long. As you can already see on the page, you will see a video that's called On Path to De-dollarization. World tired of funding U.S. military adventurism. Max Keiser. And this is coming from RT News. This is a no kidding news station. So this is not some fabricated off site. This is no kidding news. Okay. And what we'll be going over today is something that was laid up on my heart late last night into the wee hours of the morning. Family, I don't care who you are. I don't care the complexion of your skin. I don't care the shape of your eyes or your teeth or the color of your teeth. I don't care if you short. I don't care if you tall. I don't care if you big bone or slim. It at this point right now does not matter who you are right now. What matters is this: are you righteous? That's it. And I'm saying that, family, because right now we are in a time of turmoil and we're not paying attention as a people. First, as a so-called black, so-called African-American, so-called Negro people, we have to pay attention. And our lack of attention is definitely destroying us right now. Second to all the other nations of the world that is not of the Israel stock, is not of the so-called black, so-called African-American, so-called Negro. You too need to pay attention. You too need to peel your eyes open. Right now, we're in this demonic season called the Christmas season. Everybody's running rampant. Correction, most are running rampant, or a lot of people are running rampant to and fro, trying to buy gifts to give to folk that probably don't care nothing about it. A materialistic type of situation we have going on right now, when at this very moment we are more closer to war than we realize. And we're worried about some foolish gifts, some cutting down of some trees and putting some lights on them, decorating houses and all that mess. We need to get right with the Most High, because we are in some situation right now that if you sleep too long, we'll miss you. And that's real talk. Right now, we are in a situation where the governments of the world, of the entire world, this entire earth, the kings, the sovereigns of this earth are in uproar. Everyone wants their piece of the pie. The United States is not excluded from this bunch. That's why I said the sovereigns of the entire earth, the world, everyone therein, all the leaders. Now, pay attention to this information today. The first thing I want to do is I want to play this clip. Now, please listen to what this individual says. Again, this is a prominent news station, and it definitely comes from a different perspective than just that of the regular news that you receive here in the United States of America. But pay attention to what's going on. When you talk about the de-dollarization of this currency, of the dollar, let me explain something to you that's serious. That is serious. There's a thing called the petrodollar. Basically, what is the main currency that's being traded in the world. That's what's holding this dollar so high in regard, but that's being destabilized right now. The United States dollar is in trouble. And whenever that happens, and you check your history, whenever the dollar gets in some turmoil and other countries threaten not to use the dollar, the US dollar anymore, then war is around the corner. And this individual in this little 5-minute video is going to explain that explicitly. So pay attention, and then we'll move on from there.
The oil dollar matrix have met terrible ends. Of course, Saddam Hussein wanted to trade oil in euros, so he was killed. You had Muammar Gaddafi wanted to trade his energy in something other than US dollars. He was killed. So the track record here is pretty dire. So kudos to China for taking this project on. And of course, they are rumored to be the big buyer in the Aramco offering of their state oil facilities coming down the pike. So this makes sense in a geopolitical sense in terms of you've got China and Russia and the Saudis are looking to escape the US dollar hegemony. They're looking to de-dollarize. That's a concept we see all over the world right now as countries want to escape from the U.S. military-industrial complex. These countries around the world are tired of funding America's military adventurism by being a party to the empire of debt, as it's known around the world, the U.S. dollar, and they want to split off. They want their autonomy. China wants autonomy. Russia wants autonomy. Iran wants autonomy. They don't want to be ruled over by the U.S. dollar anymore. So this gives them away this contract, futures contract based in yuan for oil, convertible into gold. It means that these countries can finally, and it's been in place since the end of World War II, escape the Bretton Woods U.S. dollar hegemony, empire of date, supremacy, world reserve currency that is the U.S. dollar, and we're in a new beginning, I think.
Is there anything then that the U.S. can do about this? Because it's not going to be happy that it's going to lose the petrodollar. So how would you expect it to fight back?
Well, they're exactly right. They will fight back. They will start a war. Maybe they'll start a war between Japan and China. Maybe they'll start a war with North Korea. America will do anything to keep the U.S. dollar as world reserve currency. They will invade a country like Afghanistan. They'll stop at nothing because this is the basis of the U.S. empire. It's not land-based. It's not based on material goods. It's based on rent-seeking. It's based on lending dollars, getting that income, and then when countries can't pay, they dismantle the assets and take them over. We saw in Latin America, South America. This is how America built its empire. The countries that are resistant to America's financial cartel are Russia, China, Iran. So now they figured out, you know what, we're going to split off from the dollar, and they can do so with this new contract. And they're embracing cryptocurrencies. Cryptocurrencies in this context is another way to de-dollarize. To de-dollarize, get out of the U.S. dollar. The U.S. dollar is being held up narrowly with the Pentagon's various actions around the world and a lot of market machinations from the central banks. But once the cat's out of the bag, look for the dollar to have a very significant crash.
And among the countries you said might actually join China in this were Saudi Arabia. You said that just a couple of minutes ago. I mean, that might surprise a lot of people that they would be willing to go ahead with this.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
So how could they be able to do this and simply switch out of the US dollar? Do you think it's that simple for them?
Well, it's not going to be simple, but there's definitely a motivation for the Saudis to, they want to float Aramco, for example, because they need the money, because they're deeply in debt, and they're running out of cash, and they wanted to do an IPO of Aramco on either the London or the American exchange, but they were prevented from doing so from the legal actions of the 9/11 survivors. who rightly point to the Saudis as the cause of 9/11, the architects of 9/11. And they were allowed in America for those lawsuits to go forward. That's a pretty recent development. Only in the last year or so, lawsuits against Saudis for terrorism for 9/11 have been allowed to go forward. So now the Saudis are like, okay, if that's the way you feel, America, then we're going to take our business to China, Russia, Iran, So there's a huge split between the Saudi and America right now. The petrodollar, which got started in 1970, 1971, that's coming to an end. The Saudis are doing all kinds of moves that beyond just killing people on 9/11, which is pretty aggressive, I think.
Max,
they're doing a lot of other moves.
We could talk a lot longer about this. It's a fascinating topic, but we've got to leave it there. We really appreciate your thoughts on this. That was Max Keiser. Thank you. Joined by...
Now, family, did you hear what this man just said? Now, whether you agree with him or not is irrelevant. What he's explaining to you is that which has been talked about for a couple years now. And now it's starting to meet the head. You're talking about countries like Russia. You're talking about countries like China. You're talking about Saudi Arabia. You're talking about all of these different countries that are coming together and say, hey, we're going to change things up. We're going to do something a little different. But whenever that happens, and at the end of the day, if you are a true student of history, you know that a lot of, especially most of the wars was conquest, land, money. When you actually study slavery, you actually study the South versus the North, you study civilizations, especially in our current society and especially in our modern history, modern slavery, what that happened within the last 400 years and so. When you study these dynamics, you realize that a lot of this definitely was, racial tension, definitely the inferiority versus the superiority complex. But the money, for the love of money is the root of all evil. So the economic means, economic survival, economic enhancement. When you look at things from an economic perspective, I'm telling you, read the book Black Label White Wealth by Dr. Claude Anderson. Breaks it down phenomenally. Economics is one of your key factors of war. And right now you're witnessing that right now. You're dealing with the fact that if this petrodollar, well, not if, now that it's being threatened, war is on the horizon, because it depends on how far these particular nations decide to go with the deal that's about to get cut between these other countries on how to cut the petrodollar out. If you haven't studied Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, you need to get into that cryptocurrency and Bitcoin and comprehend what's going on with that, because things are moving. Look at your technology. Your technology are moving. You had writing on pieces of paper. Then we went from that being the main means of communication to typewriters. Now we went from typewriters to computers. Now we have computers in our hands. And now the computers in our hands are more efficient in our hands, and they're smaller. Now you're talking about money. Money at one time was a trading and bartering system. Then they had fractional reserve banking that popped up. Right? Then we go from that, and now we run into this. Now we go into this monetary system where things are now. We used to write checks. We used to carry cash. You used to walk into a place, and if you had cash, you was able to buy something cash, especially a car or something like that. The price would get reduced. That doesn't happen anymore. Why? Because now things are online. You just press a button. Remember that commercial when you had or everybody had a card, and then this one person had cash and disrupted the flow of the line and disrupted it, and everybody looking at that person crazy like, where you going with these cash and coins? And everything went to card. Now we're going from card to just online, particularly online currencies. That's the shift. Well, that's going to threaten the dollar. And when you talk about threatening the dollar, what are you talking about? You're talking about threatening the actual, as this person put it, you're talking about the stability of the empire of the United States of America and the position that the United States of America holds on the world. Do you think for a minute that's going to just, that the government of the United States is just going to lay over and say, oh, the petrodollar, oh, well, we'll go ahead on and just do Chinese dollars, and we'll, the yen, and we'll go to the, no. Let's be realistic. Now, why am I saying that? Well, let's keep going. Let me show you something else. Now, we had a situation. Okay? Now, this, again, coming from RT News. And I want to put out there, I own no rights to any of this information. This is something I can't even say I researched. It was put in my spirit, happened to look it up. It actually just came across my Facebook. I looked it up and then did further research, and then all of this information popped up before my eyes. So trust me, I'm riding this wave, but this is a very disturbing wake-up call for every single individual that is trying to do righteous unto the Most High or to have delayed their process, such as myself. And I'll be transparent saying I need to get better. And just like I need to get better, I know there are folk out there that need to get better. If there's time to get better, it's time to get better right now. Real spill, real talk, straight talk. Okay? Now, while we're dealing with the petrodollar and the possible destabilization of that dollar and the threatening of that dollar and how it's going to affect the United States military, how it's going to affect the United States as a whole. Now that we're dealing with that, simultaneously, if you haven't heard, there was the president of the United States, Mr. Donald Trump, made a decision to say that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel, that he will recognize that. Well, the world, the sovereigns of the earth do not agree with that decision. They're pretty upset about that decision. So what happened because of that? A vote at the UN Council, the United Nations. Everybody got together along with the United States, and there was a vote. And most of the countries that, according to, and we'll see, I think in this news article, according to the United States, that the United States subsidize, funds, and give money to in the millions and billions, voted against the United States on this one, which is also not a good sign. Neither is the government of the United States happy about that at all. Let's read. Again, I own no rights. I am just basically reading that which is on the screen. These are not my words. However, all of us need to pay attention to these well-written words by this individual. Now, his name is Fannin Cunningham, and the name of this article is Washington's Humiliation at UN is Sign of a Washed Up Superpower. Now, this is what this individual wrote. Okay, this individual, born in 1963, has written extensively on international affairs with articles published in several languages. All right, just want to give you a background on this person as I'm learning with you. All right, originally from Belfast, Northern Ireland, he is a master's graduate in agriculture, chemistry, and worked as a scientific editor for the Royal Society of Chemistry, Cambridge, England, before pursuing a career in newspaper journalism. For over 20 years, so this is 20 years of experiences here, he worked as an editor and writer in major news media organizations, including The Mirror, Irish Times, and Independent. Now a freelance journalist based in East Africa. His column appears on RT, Sputnik, Strategic Culture Foundation, and Press TV. What is this telling you? He's a foreign. He's not here, stationed here. He's over there, and he's writing it from a different perspective. So let's see what we have here. Now, this is published at what time? This was published 22nd December 2017 at 15:34. For those of you who don't know the 24-hour clock that well, that's 3:34 p.m. Okay, let's keep going. This young lady right here, this is the U.S. ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley. Okay, that's who we're looking at here. Okay, now let's read word for word what it said. The humiliating condemnation of the U.S. this week at the UN General Council over the Jerusalem policy revealed both Washington's contempt for democracy and international law, and just how isolated America has become globally. Come out the gate swinging. That's a very heavy statement. Okay. Now we're talking about the world platform here. We're talking about the sovereigns of the earth. This is nothing to play with. There's nothing to shake a stick at. This is real spill. This is serious. The overwhelming rejection of President Trump's declaration of Jerusalem as the Israeli capital by 128 member nations at the UN is a signal event of how far U.S. international standing has slumped. That's serious. Leader of the world, more like a miscreant whose overbearing megalomaniacal ego is no longer tolerable to virtually everyone else. Even close U.S. allies, this is important, family. Even close U.S. allies among the NATO military alliance voted against Washington's position. Now look who voted against. Britain, France, and Germany joined with other international powers. Russia, China, Japan, South Korea, India, and Brazil to repudiate Trump's decision taken earlier this month to recognize Jerusalem. Let me explain to you why that's important. You're talking about Britain, you're talking about France, you're talking about Germany. Now, these are some people that, these are some U.S. allies you're dealing with, especially when you talk about Britain and France. Okay? Do your history. Go look at your history and see the important role that Britain and France played with this country throughout history. Now, you're talking about these individuals that was close allies or are close allies with the U.S. have voted with people like Russia. They on the same page? China? Seriously. You're talking about Japan. That's another very close ally. There are bases in Japan. South Korea. There are bases in South Korea. I'm talking about U.S. establishments. And they voted against the United States. This is very important. And they all voted to do what? Against the decision taken earlier this month to recognize Jerusalem. Right? Now look at, this is what you have. This is the voting result here. In favor, 128, against 9, and then you have the 35. Let's keep going, okay? It says the UN vote. This coming from RT at RT_com. UN vote, quote, is victory for Palestine, end quote. President Abbas spokesman. Okay? All right. In the end, only 7 marginal states, no disrespect meant, voted with the U.S. and Israel. Guatemala, Honduras, Marshall Islands, Micronesia, Nauru, Palau, and Togo. Those are the only people that voted with the situation. Another 35 nations chose to abstain, including Canada. Now, those right north of us. That's north of this country. And Australia, which would typically openly back America's Mideast policies. But they abstained on this one. They like, I ain't about this life. Let's keep reading. The outcome was in spite of shameless arm twisting by the U.S. ahead of the General Assembly vote when President Trump threatened to cut off financial aid to nations going against American policy. The day before the UN vote, Thursday, Trump said, quote, they take hundreds of millions of dollars and even billions of dollars, and then they vote against us. Well, we're watching those votes. Let them vote against us. We'll save a lot. We don't care, end quote. That's a power. Family, that statement is real. And if you have not learned anything, regardless of your personal opinion of this president, one thing that he is about that life. Now pay attention to these words. Not only is he about that life, but what about these other ones? What about these other sovereigns? Let's keep reading. And we'll see what these other sovereigns have to say. And you'll see that right now we are in a tense situation where all of these sovereigns are about that kind of life right now. Let's go on. In what has become a slurking mantra of Trump's White House, he added, quote, "We're not going to be taken advantage of anymore," end quote. We talking about, see, once again, we talking about this money situation. He's saying that this country will no longer be taken advantage of financially. You're going to take the dollar from this country and then vote against when I say something. That's basically what's being said. Let's keep going. Turkish leader Recep Tayyip Erdogan, another key NATO ally, denounced Washington's attempt at bribery, saying the U.S. was trying to, quote, buy votes, end quote. He called on all countries to not sell democratic rights for, quote, petty dollars, end quote, and for them to uphold past UN resolutions designating the status of Jerusalem as a matter to be resolved through Israeli-Palestinian peace negotiations. Wow. This man said on an international stage that the U.S. was trying to, quote, it's right here, family. These are not my words. It says buy votes. This ain't even RT News words. This is the words by this leader. That's serious. Let's keep going. Trump's unilateral recognition on December 6th of Jerusalem as the Israeli capital overturned decades of international consensus, as well as Washington's own state policy of brokering a historic compromise between the Israeli and Palestinians. The abrupt change in official U.S. policy has provoked particular consternation among Arab and Muslim nations, who together comprise nearly a quarter of the world's population. The General Assembly's resolution this week is non-binding, meaning it has no mandatory legal power and therefore is largely symbolic. Nevertheless, the symbolism speaks volumes of changing times, where the U.S. has fallen spectacularly from grace in the eyes of the world. The U.S. declared truculently before the vote that it did not care and it would ignore the result, come what may. Israeli Premier Benjamin Netanyahu lavished praise on the U.S. for its support and dismissed the UN resolutions as, quote, preposterous, end quote. Okay. Earlier in the week on Monday, a draft resolution also rejecting Trump's Jerusalem declaration was put to the UN Security Council and was approved by 14 sitting members. Let's listen. But American Ambassador Nikki Haley cast her country's veto to squash that resolution, which would have been legally binding. So if she hadn't cast that, then this resolution would be done. Let's keep going. Haley, now keep in mind, this is the ambassador we're talking about, the American ambassador representing. Haley's remarks to the General Assembly before Thursday's vote highlighted Washington's brazen contempt for democratic rights. In sinister tones, she warned that the U.S., quote, was taking note of names, end quote, and reiterated Trump's threats of taking retaliatory measures by cutting off financial aid. If looks could kill, Haley's demeanor was armed and dangerous. Now, I don't know how you feel, but you know the expression when folks say, I'm taking names. That's basically what was said. And I'm putting that in my own words. She wanted the U.S. taking names. I don't know about you, but that's serious. Okay? Let's keep going. Because anytime you say I'm taking names, then you particularly know what that means. But she says she's taking names. That's what the U.S. is doing. The American envoy also displayed a twisted logic that was as arrogant as it was flawed. She rebuked all nations for, quote, attacking, end quote, the U.S., quote, sovereign right, end quote, to nominate Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. The fact is, it is the U.S. which has attacked international consensus and UN resolutions regarding Jerusalem's neutral status. Let's keep going. Haley also claimed the, quote, will of the American people, end quote, was being assaulted by the UN. Right? Her claim is not backed up by any polls. Indeed, one recent poll conducted in November, just before Trump made his announcement, shows a big majority, 63% of the American public, are against any such move to recognize Jerusalem as the undivided Israeli capital. So if anything, it is Haley and Trump's administration that is snubbing the, quote, will of the American people, end quote. For decades, the Palestinian-Israeli conflict has galvanized world's opinion more than any other issue. The preponderance of UN resolutions shows an international consensus in favor of recognizing Palestinian national rights. Yet the United States this week slammed the UN for being biased against Israel. What the U.S. doesn't seem to recognize is that the consensus at the UN is a reflection of international democracy. Washington's disdain toward majority world opinion shows its underlying contempt for democratic principles and international law. The official American attitude is, if you don't support our position, no matter how questionable that position, then your opinion is not valid. However, this week shows how much Washington's moral authority has deteriorated. Even among allies and foes, there was a common position of rejecting Washington's unilateralism. Unilateralism. Keep in mind, when you make a statement like this, when it says even among allies, the United States allies and United States foes, there was a common position. That's not a many times in history that maybe I'm wrong, and if you can pull up some information and send it to me, I'll be more than happy to correct myself. But to say that the allies and foes of the United States sitting there agreeing on topics of this magnitude, I can't recall many or too many at all in history where that has happened up until this point. Very important. Saudi Arabia and the Sunni Arab Gulf states line up with arch enemies, Iran and Syria, to reject the U.S. position on Jerusalem. Again, so you have a situation where you have allies, the United States allies, teaming, in this particular regard, teaming up with the foes, if you will. Then you have other countries that are enemies or arch enemies of themselves. Saudi Arabia, Sunni Arab Gulf, lining up with their arch enemies, Iran and Syria, to reject the U.S. position on Jerusalem. That is unheard of. These things are important. Keep in mind, family. And we're going to bring this to scripture, guaranteed, to show you what's really going on. Nations that are large recipients of U.S. development aid were not cowed by threats of financial punishment. Now, these are folk that actually give money. And check this out. It said that, look, Afghanistan, Egypt, Iraq, Palestine joined with poor African countries, Ethiopia, Kenya, Nigeria, among others, to repudiate Washington. Yemen, war-torn and famine-stricken, also cast its vote against the U.S. That's bold. The overwhelming rejection by the General Assembly of American policy not only shows how out of line Washington is, it also shows an increasing number of states are willing to openly defy Washington's bully tactics. Ironically, President Trump earlier this week declared in his newly published national security strategy, quote, America is again leading the world, end quote. His signature on the pretentious document testified, quote, our founding principles have made the United States of America among the greatest forces for good in history. Around the world, nations and individuals admire what America stands for. We treat people equally and value and uphold the rule of law, end quote. Such lofty claims to be only true in the febrile imagination of American officialdom. In reality, America's virtuous pretensions are seen increasingly to be a ridiculous sham, flagrantly contradicted by its boorish, thuggish behavior. There was a time perhaps when the U.S. could command global leadership. That self-declared global authority was always overrated, but there was a veneer of plausible appearance and credibility in Washington's claim. Now, Washington sounds like a pathetic, deluded narcissist exposed by its own blatant contempt for the very principles it espouses to uphold: democratic rights, free speech, the rule of law. This week at the UN General Assembly, the United States is no longer a world leader. It is more like a rogue state whose delusional greatness is belied by sordid acts of bribery, bullying, and intimidation. A tyrant whose time is over. Most telling is that Washington's threats of intimidation and, quote, name taken, end quote, no longer have power. The threats are seen as just more bluffing and puffing by a washed-up superpower. The statements, views, and opinions expressed in this column are solely those of the author and do not necessarily represent those of RT, which is RT News. This is a very important article. Keep in mind, this is coming from the perspective of one who's not here. This is an international article, an article written from someone that's outside the country. So if you're not used to this kind of language in the article, that's why. Now, that's not it, family. That's not it. Okay? I want to pull up this article here. This article is also important. Now, this is homegrown. This is CNN politics, all right? This is CNN.com, okay? So those of you who do watch news and try to keep up a little bit, you know who CNN is. The top general says he'll push back against, quote, illegal, end quote, nuclear strike order. Okay, this is by Danielle Diaz, CNN, updated 5:07 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday, November 20, 2017. Now, let me explain to you why this is important. You're talking about nuclear strike. Keep in mind, this kind of talk has not happened for a very long time. This is the part I want to read from here. Let's go up a little bit. I'll read to you this first part. The top U.S. nuclear commander says Saturday he will push back against an order from President Donald Trump for a nuclear strike if it were, quote, illegal, end quote. Speaking at the Halifax International Security Forum in Nova Scotia, Canada, General John Hyten, who is the commander of U.S. Strategic Command, shared what would happen if he were ordered to launch a nuclear strike. Quote, I provide advice to the president, end quote, Hyten said. Quote, he'll tell me what to do, and if it's illegal, guess what's going to happen? I'm going to say, within the quote, Mr. President, that's illegal. Guess what he's going to do? He's going to say what would be legal, and we'll come up with options of a mix of capabilities to respond to whatever the situation is. And that's the way it works. It's not that complicated, end quote. United States Strategic Command oversees U.S. nuclear weapon and missile defense. This is why this is important. Hyten's remarks come after a Senate Foreign Relations Committee hearing this week on the president's authority to launch nuclear weapons. The first such congressional hearing in more than 40 years. That's why this stuff that I'm telling you, this information that I'm trying to communicate to you is extremely important. While the president retains that authority, Hyten publicly emphasized that the United States military always has the obligation to follow only legal orders, including those entailing the launch of nuclear weapons. I will leave the link. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but I will read the link to, leave the link at the bottom so that you can take a gander at this entire article and the video that's also supplied therein. I definitely implore and charge you to go ahead on and take time to look at this article. Okay? Now, you may be asking a question, why does this matter? I'm going to explain to you why this matters. Number one, most of us around the earth is asleep. especially here in the United States of America. They were saying, how could you make that claim? Go on YouTube, go on the news, look around, see what's happening. A lot of people don't know what's going on right now. A lot of people have no comprehension of the times we are in. We're worried about foolishness. We're debating crazy topics of topics of that at this point don't even matter. We're in a time of turmoil and we're asleep. Number two, when you're talking about the de-dollarization, that affects everybody. I don't care who you are. It affects everybody. That's something that needs to definitely be comprehended. You need to understand that, and understand all that standing needs to be comprehended on the effect on if the dollar actually does become just a piece of paperweight. Many will argue the fact that it's already a paperweight, and I would actually agree. But what holds the dollar into its statute is the fact that the confidence that's put into it. And I've had this discussion with professors at different universities that will tell you the same thing. The confidence that's actually put in the dollar by the world is what makes the money what it is, because it's not backed by gold, it's not backed by silver, it's not backed by any natural resource, but it's backed by what? Human confidence. But when that's threatened and the confidence is now gone, it's now been alleviated, in another currency, which it didn't cover in that article, but if you continue to research the topic of the money, you'll find out that the money that they're trying to replace the petrodollar with, between the deal with Russia, China, all those countries over there, are going to be backed by gold. So now when you have a mineral, a very highly priced, tangible asset that's backing the money, that's what makes your money very strong. The fact that the yen and the Russian dollar and whatever have you, all these different currencies are coming up now and are actually being talked about as replacing or threatening the petrodollar, shows you how strong the economies have come in the past few years. As I've stated, which goes into number 3, whenever money is threatened, war is on the brink. Know that. I don't care what you believe. You look into history and unbiasedly take a look at it, and you will know money and power off of the backs of those that they consider either superior or inferior, regardless of whatever argument you want to come from, is economically charged. And that's real spill. And lastly, but certainly not least, correction, I'm not last. Number 4, simultaneously you're dealing with quote unquote Israel and quote unquote their capital. Dodge that hijack. However, the fact that was put out as it was, and it wasn't recognized by the UN Council, does show where the United States stands right now in the UN Council. That's important and significant. And I can guarantee you that this government will not take that and just roll over and play dead. Keep that in mind. That's also raising tensions. You have North Korea, which was not covered in any one of these, but let's not forget about North Korea. North Korea has been shooting missiles over Japan. Well, in Japan, you have U.S. bases. So how do you think that's working out? Furthermore, North Korea is threatening South Korea, which is an ally to the United States. That's important. The leader of North Korea is not like the leader like his dad was. He seems to be a little bit more about that life, as is President Donald Trump, more than his predecessor. A lot of exercise. That's also on the news. You can check that out, how they're doing little exercises right now, but they're doing it more close to the border. And of course, North Korea's president is not feeling that. So there's a lot of stuff going on. Just keep your eyes on the news. And I'm not just talking about the regular stuff, CNN, Fox, and NBC. No. I'm talking about go into RT, go into different, alternative news sources and see what's going on. Read some books. Keep your eye on what's going on, because what's happening is going to bring you into my last and final, but most important point. Scripture talks about war. It talks about the fact that war will happen. It's not a matter of if it's going to happen. It's a matter of when is it going to happen. For we know not the day or the hour. As we know, time has been manipulated. Time has been added to our timeline. So it's something like the Matrix, when Neo and Morpheus was having a conversation, and Morpheus told Neo in the simulation, he said, you think it's year 1999. When we're more closer to 2100 than you think. We have no idea what year we're in right now, to be honest and true. Because how time has been manipulated, going from our lunar calendar from the Hebrews, going up to moving into a solar type of calendar, dealing with the Gregorian calendar and whatever have you. How time, 1,000 to 1,300 years, been added to the timeline to insert a false messiah, false events, whatever have you. All those things. So we don't know what time we're in, but we do know one thing: time is coming to an end. We know that's going to happen. And when I say coming to an end, I don't mean that the earth is going to obliterate and everything's going to be gone and that's it. The system as it stands today will be done away with eventually. How do you know that? How could you make such a claim? What is wrong with you? Have you studied history? Look at every single empire in the past. Look at every single system in the past. Go even all the way back to Nimrod with the one world government, the one world system that he had. Is it still here today? No. Are the Egyptian empires and dynasties still prevalent today? No. The Persian Empire? No. The Rome? No. So what do you have today? You have these different empires out here today. You have these world leaders today. You have this entire system, this world system, world currency, cryptocurrency. You have this world situation going on. Is that going to continue to stand? No. Why? Because the Most High said his system is coming back. And when he come back, it's forever. So every other system made by man has to fall. I'll leave you with a very important passage of scripture. This scripture comes from Yeshayahu, also known as the prophet Isaiah, as we call him, coming from chapter 24. And this is why I've been telling you that we have to get back to the precepts, statutes, laws, and commands of the Most High Hawa. We have to get back to it. We have to get right. And there's no better time than now. Because when he come back raining, and when he allow these wars to happen, and folk dying, I'm telling you now, that ain't gonna be the time to try to repent then. It's gonna be too late. So while everything's still at a standstill, and everything's still trying to get in position, and the Most High still giving a little allowance of time, this is sure enough the time to get your hearts right. Real spill. Forget what you think you know. Forget what ideology you coming from. Real spill. You need to definitely I'm gonna let the Most High speak for himself. Coming from our ancient ancestor. Here we go. See, Hawa is making the earth empty and making it waste, and shall overturn its surface, and shall shatter abroad its inhabitants. He's not making any discrimination. Yisrael, so-called black, so African American, so-called Negro. You in this? You Jesus followers, your Eusus followers, Yeshua, Yeshua, and all the rest of that. All you Christmas holiday worshiping, pork eating, pork belly, fat back, hog, mog, all that. Israel, we here too. We in this. It says judgment on the whole earth. Nobody's excluded. You wicked, you gonna get judged. Real spill. And this judgment ain't looking good. Verse 2. And it shall be as with the people, so with the priest. As with the servant, so with his master. Just in case you had a, question about who gonna get tore up from the floor with no remorse. But that ain't it. It's just the rest of the world. It said the servant and the master. And if you want to claim Israel, then you know doggone well we serving right now. We servants right now to the master of the elite of this land and the lands across the entire earth. As with the female servant, so with the mistress. As with the buyer, so with the seller. As with the lender, so the borrower. As with the creditor, so with the debtor. The earth is completely empty and utterly plundered, for Hawa has spoken this word. You don't care who you are on this. Why? Because we all have failed to do what? Follow his precepts, statutes, laws, and commands. Verse 4, the earth shall mourn and wither. The world shall languish and wither. The hardy people of the earth shall languish. For the earth has been defiled under its inhabitants. We defiled the earth. We didn't do nothing. You know, they came in and they plundered the land and they killed us and they spilled us. It wouldn't happen if you had followed the precepts, statutes, laws, and commands. So yes, we are part of it too. We got to take our part in this foolishness. What does verse 5 say? Let's continue to read that. Let's read from the beginning. For the earth has been defiled under its inhabitants. I mean, all its inhabitants that destroyed this good old earth that the Most High created. Because they have what? Transgressed the Torah. Changed the law. Broken the everlasting covenants. Period. Because that was done by us, all of us. You got to remember who was. You think the Most High just spoke to Israel one time? That's it. He may have given us them laws, but you trying to tell me he ain't speak to nobody else, tell them to be righteous too? It doesn't make sense. But he's telling you, everybody broke them laws. Everybody guilty. And guess what? He going in. Therefore, a curse shall consume the earth, and those who dwell in it be punished. You can try to throw theology, doctrine, whatever you want to in this. This is real simple. He's going to come and he's going to judge the earth. Therefore, the inhabitants of the earth shall be burnt, and few men shall be left. The new wine shall fail, the vine shall languish. All those glad at heart shall sigh. The joy of the tambourine shall cease. The noise of those who rejoice shall end. The joy of the lyre shall cease. No more do they drink wine with a song. Strong drink is bitter to those who drink it. The deserted city shall be broken down. Every house shall be shut. No one enters. There is a crying for the wine in the streets. All joy shall be darkened. The gladness of the earth shall be gone. The cities is left in ruins, and the gate is stricken with destruction. He's not playing. It's knowledge. Whatever you think you have. I don't care if you know 85 languages, fluent in all of them. Or the only thing you know how to speak is Ebonics and not good English. It doesn't matter. He said he doesn't matter who you are. I'm coming back. I'm tearing this thing up. You'll watch the movie, The Purge. That's what he finna come do. So when I'm telling you about these wars and what's going on and what's happening around the earth, pay attention. Get yourself right so you can hopefully be one of them few men that's talked about in verse 6 where it says, and few men shall be left. Better hope you one of them folk. I sure hope I am. Sure hope my family is. I'm not even gonna sit up here in front. Why? Because he coming back with he gonna allow this mess to happen. He gonna allow this destruction to take place. He coming because he angry. He's sick of the sin. And it's getting worse daily, hourly, every minute, second, we getting worse. Not just as a so-called black soil commercial Negro. We talking about the earth. Pull your head up out yourself for a quick second and look around. 13 verse. For thus it is to be in the midst of the earth among the peoples, like the shaking of an olive tree, like the gleaning of grapes, when the grape harvest is done. They lift up their voice, they sing of the excellencies of Hawa. They shall cry aloud from the sea. You ain't even know you're not even safe out in the sea. Therefore praise Hawa in the east, the name of Hawa, Elohim, Yitzrael, in the coastlands of the sea. From the ends of the earth, we shall hear songs. Splendor to the righteous one. But I say, I waste away. Woe to me. The treacherous betray with treachery. The treacherous one betray. Fear and the pit and the snare are upon you, O inhabitants of the earth. And it shall be that he who flees from the noise of the fear falls into the pit, and he who comes up from the midst of the pit is caught in the snare. For the windows from on high shall be opened, and the foundations of the earth be shaken. The earth shall be utterly broken. The earth shall be completely shattered. The earth shall be fiercely shaken. The earth shall stagger like a drunkard, and it shall totter like a hut. And its transgression shall be heavy upon it, and it shall fail and not rise again. And in that day it shall be that Hawa punishes on high the host of exalted ones, and on the earth the sovereigns of the earth. That's why I'm talking to you about what's going on with our president, this president of the United States of America. That's why I'm talking to you about these other leaders of these other countries and what they're doing, what they're saying, how they're voting, how they're feeling. I normally don't do news, prophecy, and stuff like that, but it was laid up on my heart by the Most High, because I sure I was going to do about that. That's going to have to be laid up for tomorrow. But this right here is important. Everybody going to get it. And it shall be, verse 22, and it shall be gathered together as prisoners are gathered in the pit. It shall be shut up in the prison and be punished after many days. And the moon shall blush and the sun shall be ashamed. For Hawa of hosts shall reign on Mount Zion and in Jerusalem and before his elders in esteem. What does that mean? This earthly system has got to be destroyed. If you are a true seeker, lover, and truth of the Most High Hawa, then you have to believe that last statement. The last statement, verse 22 says, and the moon shall blush, the sun shall be ashamed, for Hawa of hosts shall reign on Mount Zion and in Jerusalem. Hawa of hosts, Hawa Sabaoth, shall reign on Mount Zion and in Jerusalem and before his elders in esteem. If that's to happen, that means that this system has to be broken. And what better way to break it than an all-out war? Am I saying this is going to happen in 2018? I told you I ain't no prophet. I'm just giving you some information that came across my way. What I am telling you is be careful and watch what's going on. And don't get caught slipping so that you can be in verse number 6, one of the few men that's left. Don't get caught slipping. Thinking because you know that you of the seed of Yaakov, that's gonna help you get right with the Most High. Man, if you look at the history of us, he killed a lot of us too, just for complaining in the wilderness under Moshe. So you think he ain't gonna deal with us? Keep reading your scriptures, because he deals with us pretty heavily. As a matter of fact, he deals with us like he deals with the other nations, because he says we acting like him, so he gonna treat us like him. Just like we would our children. Oh, you acting a fool, I'm gonna treat you like a fool. That's the same thing he's saying here. That's the same thing he says in the scripture. Don't think just because you got a bloodline and you think you know who you are that you won't get dealt with. As a matter of fact, he gonna deal with you even harsher. Don't think because you know you indigenous to America that's gonna change anything with this. Don't think because we looking at the white man, so-called white man doing this, so-called white man do that, so-called Arab did this, so-called. Look, when he come back, the so-called everybody gonna get dealt with. Period. So pay attention. And right now, those of you who listen and live in the United States, President Trump is not about that. It's not about the foolishness when it comes to going to war. But neither of the other countries. You heard the Turkish president said. What he accused, what he said, how he felt about the situation. You see the allies, how they feel. Even the poor countries got stand up like, I don't care how poor we are, this is how we feel. When you start seeing that kind of tension, when you start seeing money being talked about and how it's being threatened, especially for this country, And when you look at the statistics of this country been in the war, I think 92% of the time since the inception of this government. 92%. If I shot a 3-point shot to win a game and I had a 92% chance of making it, I'm gonna take that shot. What does that mean? If a country's been a war over 90% of the time that it's been a country, then you better bet your bottom dollar that you got a very good chance of war happening. That mean the country about that fighting life. Whether you agree with it, whether you don't, but what you need to agree with is getting right with the Most High. That's the point of this entire video. Get right with the Most High and get right as quickly as you can. Stop disregarding the days of the Most High. Stop acting like these commands don't matter. Get right with them. For those of you that's trying, keep on. Because at the end of the day, don't get caught up. Don't get caught up. The information is great, but make sure that as we'll continue to enhance our information and enhancing our minds and know what's going on historically, make sure we're keeping up with these current events, because I'm telling you, things are shaking up. And according to this chapter right here in Yeshayahu chapter 24, it sounds like the Most High ain't playing. And to have this great awakening happening the way it's happening today, as opposed to what it was just a few years ago, how many of us know who we are now? As a so-called black, so-called American, so-called Negro, knowing that we indigenous, knowing that we are Israelites and Moors and all kind of, listen, things are happening rather quickly. Time is not waiting. Things are hastening. Even the days feel shorter. Same 24 hours back in the day ain't the same 24 hours now. Although they are the same 24 hours, they don't feel the same. They just moving, and they moving rapidly. Pay attention. You have to pay attention to what's going on. Don't get caught up. Don't get left behind. Because when he come back, he coming back for the entire earth, and that's including us. Is he going to get us? Is he going to resurrect us as far as a nation, bring us back together like he did, like he told Ezekiel up in chapter 37? We're going to get those sticks, put them together, we'll be one nation. All that's going to happen, but you better believe he going to come back and get rid of this wickedness first. He's an awesome Elohim. He's a wonderful Elohim. He's a wise Elohim. He's a loving Elohim. He's a generous Elohim. He's a patient Elohim, a long-suffering Elohim. But don't forget, he is a Elohim of war, and he is an Elohim that is just. Don't forget that. And with that, family, I love you. I hope this information edifies you on this Sabbath, beautiful Sabbath morning, beautiful Sabbath day. May you have rest, reflect, and more importantly, let's get right. Love you all. Sagi Ahab, much love. Shalom.